Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping straight into something pretty exciting, actually. It's how DNA is changing the game for genealogy.
Absolutely. It's become such a powerful tool.
Yeah, so if you're maybe just starting out looking into your family history, or, maybe you've hit one of those infamous brick walls,
Hmm.
DNA testing could be, well, just what you need.
Yeah.
It can connect you with living relatives you never knew existed, guide your research and new corrections.
And even provide proof for the stories you already have.
Exactly. And the great thing is you really don't need a PhD in biology to grasp the basics.
Not at all. At its core, DNA, that's short for deoxyribonucleic acid, but you don't need to remember that it's essentially the instructions, the blueprint, that makes you you.
Like a biological instruction manual?
Precisely. Think of it like that. A very detailed manual for building and running a human. And it's written in this code made of tiny units called nucleotides. They link up into these really long, twisty structures.
Okay, hang on. Those long, twisty structures,
Mhm.
are those the chromosomes?
You got it. Chromosomes. They're like the volumes or chapters in that instruction manual. Humans typically have 46 of them, right? Arranged in 23 pairs.
Okay.
And you get one set of 23 chromosomes from your mom and the other set of 23 from your dad.
Ah, okay. So that inheritance, half from each, is why it's so useful for family history.
That's the key. It creates a unique genetic signature passed down through generations.
Right. Now, these chromosomes, they're inside the nucleus of our cells, yeah?
Yeah.
Is there other DNA hanging around?
There is actually, outside the nucleus, in these little powerhouses of the cell called mitochondria.
Mitochondria.
Yep. They have their own DNA. It's called mitochondrial DNA or just mtDNA. And what's interesting is there are tons of copies of it in each cell, way more than nuclear DNA.
And why does that matter for tracing ancestors?
Well, unlike the DNA in the nucleus, which gets shuffled up each generation, mtDNA is passed down pretty much unchanged.
Yeah.
But only from a mother to all her children.
Okay, so sons get it too.
Sons get it, but they don't pass it on. Only daughters transmit it to the next generation.
Ah, I see.
So testing mtDNA lets you trace your direct maternal line, your mother's 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 mother, and so on, like following a single unbroken thread backwards in time.
Wow. A direct female line. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Okay, so when people start looking into DNA tests for genealogy, they see all these letters, right? mtDNA, Y-DNA, autosomal. It feels a bit like alphabet soup.
It can seem that way, but there are really four main types we focus on for genealogy. We just talked about mtDNA, that's for the direct maternal line.
Right.
Then there's Y-DNA. This test looks at the Y chromosome.
Which only males have.
Exactly. So this traces the direct paternal line, father's father's father, and so on. It's only passed from father to son.
Okay, so mtDNA for the mother's line, Y-DNA for the father's line, but only if you're male or testing a male relative. What about, well, everyone else on the family tree?
That's where autosomal DNA testing comes in. And honestly, this is the most common type you'll see offered by the big companies like Ancestry DNA or 23andMe.
Okay, autosomal, what does that cover?
It looks at the other 22 pairs of chromosomes, the ones that aren't the sex chromosomes, X and Y. You inherit bits of these from both your parents and therefore from all four grandparents and so on. So it gives you a much broader picture of your relatively recent ancestry, maybe the last 5, 7 generations or so, across all your family lines.
So it's like casting a wider net compared to the direct lines of Y and mtDNA.
Exactly. A much wider net covers more ground more recently.
Gotcha. And you said 4 types. What's the last one?
The fourth is xDNA, which looks at the X chromosome. Now, men get one X, always from their mother. Women get 2 X's, one from their mother, one from their father.
Okay, that sounds a bit more complicated.
The inheritance pattern is a bit trickier, yeah. But the analysis is often included with autosomal tests anyway. Sometimes it can help figure out which side of the family a match comes from, but it's maybe less straightforward than the others.
Okay, let me try to summarize for anyone just starting. mtDNA, direct mother's line. Y-DNA, direct father's line for males. Autosomal, and the big picture, both sides, most common test. And xDNA follows a specific path, sometimes included with autosomal.
That's a perfect summary. And really, our mission here in this deep dive is just to make all this feel a bit less intimidating, to give folks a simple starting point for understanding how DNA can fit into their genealogy quests.
Absolutely. It's about adding this, well, incredibly powerful tool without needing to feel like you're back in high school science class. Now, I can imagine someone listening who spent years building their tree with documents, maybe thinking, why bother with DNA? I've got it all mapped out.
That's a really common sentiment, and it's understandable. But even with a fantastic paper trail, DNA offers unique things. First, just think about your DNA itself. It's a unique, irreplaceable record of your genetic heritage.
Like a living document.
Exactly. Just having it tested preserves that information. It might be invaluable for future research, maybe by your descendants. Even if you don't get immediate answers yourself, it's like creating a biological archive.
Okay, preservation.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What else?
Second, you have second cousins and third cousins, fourth cousins. Loads of relatives out there you probably don't know.
All right.
DNA testing is really the only way to uncover many of these biological connections. Finding these living relatives, even if you can't immediately place them on your tree, gives you this broader sense of family, a deeper connection to your roots. It's not just about adding names to a chart.
Finding living connections. That definitely sounds appealing.
It is. And that ties into the third reason, verification. Those DNA cousins. They can actually help confirm your existing research.
How so?
Well, if you match several people who all trace back to the same great-great-grandparents you've documented, that's really strong evidence your research is on the right track.
Oh, okay, like independent confirmation.
Right. But sometimes DNA can also reveal surprises. Things like previously unknown adoptions, or maybe relationships that weren't recorded accurately, or at all. It forces you to realize that your documented family tree, your genealogical pedigree, might not perfectly match your genetic pedigree.
That's a huge point. History isn't always what's written down. What's the last main reason?
The fourth one is really about helping others. Maybe your tree is solid, but your DNA could be the missing link for someone else stuck on a difficult line.
Ah, paying it forward.
Exactly. By adding your DNA to the databases, you might just provide that crucial clue someone else desperately needs to break down their own brick wall. You become part of a larger collaborative effort.
That's a nice way to think about it. So, okay, someone decides to take an autosomal test, the common one.
Yeah.
They get their results back. What do they usually see? What kind of info is there?
Typically, you get results in about three main buckets. First, there's the ethnicity estimate.
Right, the percentages. You're 40% Irish, 20% Scandinavian, that kind of thing.
Yep. It compares your DNA to reference panels from different parts of the world. It's interesting for sure, but it's crucial to remember these are estimates.
Estimates. Why?
Because the companies use different reference groups, their algorithms change, the science evolves. So your estimate might vary between companies, and it might even get updated over time by the same company. They're fun, a good conversation starter, but they're not precise historical documents.
Okay, so treat the percentages as a general guide, not gospel. What's the second bucket?
This is often where the real genealogical gold lies. Your DNA cousin matches.
Ah, the list of people you share DNA with.
Exactly. It's a list of other users in that company's database who share significant amounts of DNA with you, suggesting a relatively recent common ancestor. They're usually ranked by how much DNA you share, which gives an estimate of how closely related you might be, like second cousin, third cousin, etc.
And this is where you find those potential new relatives we talked about.
This is the primary place, yes. Working through this match list is where most of the research happens.
Okay, and the third bucket.
The third thing is usually some kind of tool that tries to visualize potential relationships. Ancestry DNA has a feature called through-lines. MyHeritage has something similar called theory of relativity.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. They show you a possible tree connecting you to a match.
Kind of. They look at your DNA matches, and they look at the family trees other people have built, and they try to suggest a common ancestor and a path based on that combined data.
That sounds helpful.
It can be very helpful, but, and this is a big, but these are just hints. They are based on the trees submitted by other users, and those trees might contain errors.
Ah, so garbage in, garbage out, potentially.
Potentially, yes. So use them as clues, as starting points for investigation, but always, always verify the connections using traditional records. Don't just copy that suggested line onto your own tree without checking it out thoroughly.
Got it. Good advice. Okay, let's circle back to autosomal DNA inheritance for a second.
Yeah.
You said it's from both sides. How does that work percentage-wise going back?
Right. So you get roughly 50% of your autosomal DNA from your mother and 50% from your father. Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Then you get about 25% from each of your four grandparents. Then about 12.5% from each great-grandparent, and so on. It halves with each generation, roughly.
Roughly.
Yeah, it's not perfectly exact because the shuffling process called recombination is random. But the key takeaway is that the amount of DNA you share with any specific ancestor gets smaller and smaller the further back you go. You simply don't inherit DNA from all your ancestors beyond a certain point.
So the signal fades over time. And just quickly, remind us how Y-DNA and mtDNA differ again.
Sure. Y DNA is simple. Father to son, 100% transmission down that direct male line. Unchanged, barring rare mutations.
Okay.
Mitochondrial DNA. Mother to all children, sons and daughters, but only daughters pass it on. Again, largely unchanged down that direct female line.
Different tools for different jobs, basically.
Yeah.
Tracing specific line.
Exactly. Now, back to that big list of autosomal matches. It can look daunting. Hundreds, maybe thousands of names. How do you even start?
Yeah, what's the strategy?
Well, a really good first step is trying to sort your matches. Figure out which ones are likely related through your mother's side of the family and which through your father's side.
How do you do that if you don't recognize the names?
Often, you'll need known relatives like a parent or an aunt, uncle, or cousin whose relationship you do know to test. If you match someone and you also both match your known paternal cousin, then that new match is likely on your paternal side. You can also look for shared surnames or locations in their trees if they have them posted.
Okay, so identifying shared matches with known relatives is key.
It's very helpful. Some people take it further and try to group matches by grandparent lines, like, these are matches related through my maternal grandfather, these through my maternal grandmother, and so on.
Well, that sounds organized.
It takes work, but it's incredibly useful. Many genealogists use, color coding features on the websites or in spreadsheets to visually group their matches. It helps you focus your research efforts.
Color coding, I like that. Makes it visual.
It really does. And while those tools like Throughlines give suggestions, the real breakthroughs often come from this kind of detailed analysis, looking at who you match in common with other matches. Those are called shared matches, or in common with matches, and then carefully comparing family trees.
Okay, so for someone listening thinking, all right, I'm ready to try this, where should they go? What are the main companies?
There are several major players. Ancestry DNA probably has the largest database, which means more potential matches. They focus on autosomal testing.
Okay.
23andMe is also very large. They do autosomal testing, but have a strong health component too. One thing is they don't currently let you upload data from other companies for matching.
Good to know. Who else?
Family Tree DNA, or FTDNA, is interesting because they offer all three types: autosomal, Y-DNA, and mtDNA. They have different levels of Y and mtDNA tests, too, for more detailed analysis of those lines.
So they're kind of the specialists for the direct line tests.
You could say that, yeah. Then there's MyHeritage. They have a strong international presence, which is great if your roots are outside the U.S. They offer autosomal, have some nice tools like a chromosome browser, and importantly, they do accept uploads of DNA data from other companies.
Oh, uploads. We should talk about that. Anyone else?
Living DNA is another one. They initially had a strong focus on ancestry within the British Isles, but they offer global autosomal testing now and also accept uploads.
Okay, so several options. And you mentioned uploading data. Why would someone do that? Download from one, upload to another.
It's all about maximizing your chances of finding matches. Someone you're related to might have tested at MyHeritage, but you tested at Ancestry. If you download your raw data file from Ancestry and upload it to MyHeritage,
You might find them there.
exactly, you fish in multiple ponds, basically. Sometimes there's a small fee to unlock all the features on the site you upload to, but it dramatically expands your potential match list.
That's a fantastic tip. Fish in more ponds.
Definitely worth considering. And related to that, there's a third-party website called GetMatch.
GetMatch. What's that?
It's not a testing company itself. It's a platform where people can upload their raw DNA data files from any of the major testing companies: Ancestry, 23andMe, MyHeritage, FTDNA.
So it's like a central meeting place for data from different tests.
Precisely. You upload your data and you can find matches with people who tested at completely different companies than you did. GetMatch also offers more advanced analysis tools, some of which are, well, a bit more technical, but very powerful for certain research problems.
Okay, so another way to expand your search and maybe use different tools.
Yes, it's a really valuable resource, especially for tackling tough genealogical puzzles or for people like adoptees searching for biological family.
This has been incredibly helpful, seriously demystifying a lot of this.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or words of encouragement for listeners maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed but curious?
Just, don't be intimidated. It seems like a lot at first, maybe, but you don't have to understand everything right away. Start with an autosomal test from one of the major companies, look at your matches, see if you recognize anyone, explore those ethnicity estimates for fun.
Take it one step at a time.
Exactly. and learn as you go. There are fantastic resources out there to help. Blaine Bettinger's book, The Guide to DNA Testing and Genetic Genealogy, is sort of the Bible for this stuff. Websites like genealogytv.org have great videos. The ISOG UWiki International Society of Genetic Genealogy has incredibly detailed articles.
Lots of help available.
Loads. So just dive in, explore your results. The real magic happens when you start connecting those DNA matches back to your family tree, or maybe even discovering whole new branches. It's a unique way to connect to your ancestors, a very tangible link to the past.
A tangible link to the past.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for walking us through all this today. It's been a fantastic deep dive.
My pleasure. Happy to share it.
And for everyone listening, we really hope this inspires you to consider how DNA might unlock doors in your own family history journey. It really is a remarkable tool just waiting for you to explore.